All right. It is time for one of, well, I would say my first. I did do some work. I know my previous work, I did some Battle Brothers redesigns, but this is the first one where I've actually redesigned some of that. And I'll be talking about the Battle Brothers. The Battle Brothers have been armies that I've worked on all at once. So it's basically six armies that I've worked on in tandem, just trying to make them all unique, make them powerful. We'll get into that as well, but the first one I want to start out with is Blood Brothers. And like I said, this is sort of a series. I've talked a little bit about some of the things I think need to be worked on with Battle Brothers, so I won't spend too much time sort of going to the army. I mainly just want to discuss the competitive army list. So the first one we'll talk about is Blood Brothers. All right, so when we're talking about that, just keep in mind like, subscribe, and comment. Really helps out the channel. Really appreciate it as well. I am, just to give you a status, I am going to be doing some more battle reports, but I am going to be waiting until 3.4 comes out. So I don't want to do more competitive battle reports until I sort of see the addition. So that's one of the reasons that I've been more focused on army list designs than trying to do bat reps. All right, with that in mind, let's just get into it. As always, we always want to make some assumptions. This is talking about competitive play, so always talking about thinking about tournaments, some sort of a GT, 3,000 points, and no allies. So these are the assumptions I make when I'm designing these lists. These are the things that I'm keeping in mind. So what's the criteria? As I've said before, maybe 3.4 will change some of this, but for now, I think these criteria are still pretty good. Flexibility or strong playstyle, raw efficiency, a good spell list, generally impactful elites, cheap chaff, multiple meeting for upgrades like Caster 3 and Advanced Tactics, access to Scout and Ambush, easy access to AP4 and Undead, or to have some sort of morale mitigation here. So when we look at Battle Brothers, they, like I said, I've generally called them a B tier army. I don't think that Battle Brothers on their own are terrible armies. I just think that they don't quite, well, some of them are better than others. I think Blood Brothers is one of the better ones. So they have a pretty strong play style. They, a lot of their units, specifically units like Terminators, which I feel are, they do suffer from some hybrid tactics, especially with their pistols, that I think does hurt the army. You can run a very efficient army, but it's so limiting on models, and that's the reason that I wanted to rework Battle Brothers. And starting with Blood Brothers is because a lot of the models that people have in their current 40k armies sort of just don't work from an efficiency standpoint in OPR. They have a pretty good spell list. They've got impactful elites, not really on any sort of cheap chaff, which isn't a terrible thing. They've got some good upgrades though, especially Blood Brothers with that chalice. The Holy Chalice is just great. Access to Scout and Ambush. They've got some access to AP4 as well. They're not undead. But they do have some morale mitigation, which is generally regarding Fearless. All right, so with that in mind, let's go look at the custom army. So there's a few things I'm keeping in mind here. One, I want all the Battle Brothers sub factions to be very distinct from their other Battle Brothers factions. I think Blood Brothers is one of the easiest because I think that Furious and some of their special units sort of allows the army to. It's definitely one of the better base Battle Brothers army. I do want to make the army, some of the units more efficient, like the assault troops, but especially the destroyers. I'm not just doing this because I want, I think that they're a terrible unit. I just think that we need these units. This is the way I feel. I think that a 40k person should be able to bring their existing models into one page rules and those models be good. So I'll talk about some of my tweaks to destroyers. I'm also going to, I've added in a couple of units to every one of the Battle Brothers factions to sort of expand the units to incorporate the modern roster. A lot of things have changed in their 40k equivalent. So, for instance, in this case, in this case, Blood Angels, that we want to make sure that we're sort of matching some of the current roster. People will be playing these models; they have them. Let's sort of give them that equivalent as well. Lastly, I'll just get into a competitive list. All right, so first of all, let's just get into the custom army. All right, so here is the competitive redesign for it. So one, I did tweak the spells. I want all the Battle Brothers to sort of have their unique take on it. I think that Blood Brothers with a -1 morale and fear is pretty well. It fits very well with the army, and I do like that. The damage spells are okay. I did give them a +1 to hit in melee. I think that's a pretty nice one. And then I also gave them a -2 to defense rolls. So a lot of close range spells that I think sort of works with the army. It sort of matches the idea that they want their casters to be sort of up close and personal. So let's go look at the heroes. The heroes didn't change too much. I think that I didn't keep a lot of upgrades. So remember, when it comes to Battle Brothers, I wanted Blood Brothers to be, not as upgrade friendly. But they also, so they've got 4 pretty good ones, including things like Holy Chalice, company standard and upgrade. So this is a destroyer where one thing I do is I pull out the ambush from destroyers here. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing I'll get into with the destroyers, I I want I know that there are a lot of people who sort of have the standard Stormbolter and Power Fist in a Terminator, and I want that to sort of be good. And so what I was thinking about is that in addition to just letting them have a storm rifle, we can also give them something like an assault shotgun. So one with either a little bit of kit bashing or just sort of in agreement that you can actually run these Terminators and call their Stormbolters, just an assault shotgun. So still 2 shots at 9 inches. It can allow people to play it both ways. You can run a Terminator, give him an assault shotgun with a really good, hand-to-hand weapon, and you can, either give him ambush, or you can not do the ambush and run them a little more with the storm rifle as well. So again, just really wanted these destroyers to feel a little more flexible. The Blood Master is very similar. Not a lot has changed. Just a lot of this stuff is pretty standard upgrades with just the additional ones here. As I've done always, the Blood Mage Destroyer, I've broken it up where just comes with a caster 2 and a caster upgrade with resistance. Again, just some minor things where I'm limiting some of the upgrades for the caster as well. Also, I just gave him an energy staff, representing if he wants to go a little more dedicated on the caster as well. The Blood Mage is the same thing, right? He's got his base 2 spells and just sort of the same thing upgrade-wise. For the and then we've got the Blood Elite Pathfinder. For himself, one of the things, this is similar to what I did otherwise, where I've just, only limiting his upgrades to just advanced tactics with some upgrades there as well. So that's similar to the Battle Brothers. Let's just go into the core unit. So Blood Pathfinders, one thing I've been doing with the Pathfinders and all Battle Brothers, every unit should have a warning cry option. So for the Pathfinders, I think it's perfectly fitting to allow these guys to have warning cry. I've given these guys the ability to bring in some assault pistols as well. So this is going to be their chaff unit, and they can, if they want to, go for some. They can change out their heavy rifles either for a shotgun or for also an assault heavy pistol, which is just a limited with hand-to-hand. So just to make this unit a little cheaper regarding chaff-wise. And a lot of the upgrades are also very similar as well. So those are the tweaks to Pathfinders, giving that assault heavy pistol, giving them that warning cry option as well, and then also pulling out the scout as well. Making these guys a little more flexible, right? I just think that there needs to be a little more flexibility in some of these units. The Battle Brothers faction, model-wise or unit-wise are a lot smaller. So let's make these a little more useful. Blood Brothers didn't change too much. I did give them a company standard, I believe, in medical training. But not has a lot changed with the standard the Blood Brothers. I did go into the Assault Brothers, and I've done this with a lot of the Space Marines, where I've taken their heavy pistols, given them an assault version with limited. Let's just make these units a little more efficient that can sort of work. So I think that's something I'll be doing with all of them. I've done it with other armies, and I think it works very well. Just to make your Assault Marines actually just be, they still have some shooting options. It's cost some points, but it's not so prohibitive on the pistol tags. I did add, so this is what we would consider to be their Sanguinary Guard. I looked at the special rules in 40k, and they do have effectively something like a dodge. So I did give these guys where I've limited some of their upgrades, but I've also given them all energy swords by base, given them a plasma pistol upgrade if they want to go that way, and a fusion pistol. So I've limited the upgrades, but I've also given them an innate dodge. So these guys at 195, they're expensive, but they're also really good. And I just wanted these Guard Elite Brothers to feel a little more like their 40k equivalents. Blood Death Brothers are the same, where this hasn't changed a lot, especially in the idea that they just have the assault heavy pistol version. But generally, assault Blood Death Brothers are similar, especially with the regen. Blood Destroyers, we got into this later, so I've done one. I've pulled out the ambush on all of them. It's just an upgrade. And again, let's go back to it. I've given them an upgrade. One, they have their dual energy claws. They can go for the shield wall and get a weapon. I've also just added this one, where now we have a new option for an assault shotgun. So that, again, I go back to it. I want people. There's a lot of people who have those standard, storm bolter and close combat weapon, and I want to be able to allow these players to bring a little more of an efficient version, and that could just be as simply as a little kit bash, right? I think that's something that I always keep in mind that I talked about here. Let's provide some kit bashing opportunities to the community. The rest of which is very similar. I've given them an Aura of Fury chapter banner. So these guys really can just be a support unit and then just a medical training as well. So that's the Blood Destroyers. I think that really does help the army out a lot. Blood Support Brothers are pretty much very similar to what they were. So I'm not really going to cover them. I didn't change a lot with them. So that's them. Blood Bikers, I don't think I've changed a lot other than just giving them the ability to I've given them the ability to actually replace all the close combat with a heavy pistol, or they can get a rifle upgrade as well. But not a lot's changed there for them. And then you've got your just your support biker, which I think is very similar. Not a lot's changed here. I have pulled out the pistols and heavy rifles on them. The attack speeder I don't think has changed much. Made the transport sit and the ambush. I've made the ambush just optional. I'm big about that. That I think that ambush you don't need ambush just stock on everything. And I think attack speeder is one of these examples here. The heavy exosuit I don't think has changed as much as well. Pretty much similar. The blood attack walker, I've pulled out the fear, but other than that, it's pretty similar. I did modify some of the weapons here and there, but generally speaking, it's hasn't changed a lot. The APC, I've just given it a storm shotgun, so again, it can be a little cheaper. Transports are really expensive in this game, so giving some transports an option to bring a cheaper weapon is just, I feel, going to help things. I've also just pulled out the very fast by default and just given them a speed boost. Again, I just think that's fine to do. There's no reason that everything has to be heavy fast. Again, let's just go back to it. I think armies should just generally have a little more upgrade flexibility. The attack APC, same thing, just pulled out the speed boost on it, and it's fine. Drop palad's pretty much the same. I won't go into that. A lot of the tanks and heavy tanks, I have tweaked some of the weapons. For instance, the demolition cannon, I've removed the indirect. I don't think that actually makes sense. I remember the 40k equivalent does not have indirect on this, so I did change that. Like I said, I've tweaked some of the weapon costs on these. I actually also, with the heavy tank, to keep it I wanted this thing to be played at 2000, so I did pull out the Transport 11 as an optional upgrade, and that's actually fitting in 40k lore. There are versions of this Land Raiders which don't have the capacity, that's just fitting a little more and making it a little more flexible. Blood Artillery, lowered the defense on it. I actually lowered the combat. I think that 3 attacks at AP2 is just way too good on this thing. So lowering the defense and lowering of the fighting is going to do really good on this Blood Artillery here. And then the gunships, as I've done similarly, where the light gunship, I've just lowered the defense a little bit, and then the heavy gunship, I've kept it pretty strong. So that is the Blood Brothers. Like I said, I didn't do a lot of crazy changes to the army. Just enough that I think is going to, one, make the armies more efficient. Make it... I want not just to be efficient, but I want people to be able to bring different units and still be competitive in the army. All right, let's get into for a competitive list, this is just what I have, where I've got just a Blood Master Destroyer. I wanted to build a list that I think would be very friendly to like a new 40k person who doesn't have the opportunity to maybe change a lot of his units or customize them. So for one, I've got like this Destroyer who is just running with a shotgun. So he could, if he wants to, he could just sort of WYSIWYG it to be a shotgun instead of a Storm Bolter as well. I think that would be a pretty useful thing to do. So he's just running with an Energy Fist and Shotgun. I've got him with the Holy Chalice, which is a great upgrade. Two 5-man units of Pathfinders that I've got with pistols. And I had 105 points. They're pretty good chaff. I mean, they're expensive. They're not great chaff, but they're like I think that you need some decent chaff. And I think 105 points for 4 models is pretty good. I've got a Blood Brother unit with, I've got Company Standard to give a little more morale mitigation, and they've got medical training, and I've given them the 2 plasma weapons. I've got a 5-man unit of Blood Assault Brothers who are ambushing in and flying, so this is a pretty ambush heavy army with the Assault Blood Brothers. The Destroyers are going to ambush as well, and then the Blood Elite Guard Brothers are also ambushing. A lot of ambush in this army. I've got the Blood Destroyers, which I'm running, again, assuming that they actually can be a little better on the combined attacks. 575 is a little better. They've got their assault shotguns and they've got some energy fists and swords. Giving them the chapter banner so they can dish out some additional furious as well. 6-man unit of Blood Support Brothers with blast cannons. So I've got some blast and I've got some deadly in the army. And the other thing I have is a Blood Attack Walker who's got the caster too. I think the caster 2 on these Blood Attack Walkers is really good. I've got him with the claws, so I have a little rending in the army as well. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I was looking at this army is, and my goal for these armies is that you can build them multiple different ways. This was not the only version. You can really build, and that's why I like these armies. Give people the ability to build them a lot of different ways. All right. Well, I hope that's helped out. Thanks for watching. Love to get feedback. Just keep in mind, all these lists are sort of their first draft versions, so these lists could change over time. Like, subscribe, and comment, and hey, send me your custom armies if you want a review. Thanks a lot, everyone.